So let's actually start in a thoracic backbend. So you can either roll up your mats, find a blanket, and you want it kind of skinny. So not too thick, especially starting out. And as you come into this, we've all done this before. If it feels too intense, you can always make your roll up a little thinner. And then also, let's say if you happen to have a second blanket or some blocks, let's do a little roll up, and you could actually do this one fatter if you wanted, just to place underneath your knees. So get the stuff set up. That's the hardest part. So you'll kind of want to get the blocks or the blanket for underneath your knees. And then as you lay down on this, it's going to hit the bra strap area. So your shoulders are going to be pressing into the mat, the top side of the mat. So you don't want it, it's kind of like the upper middle back. And you can take your arms out wide in a T shape. Cactus shape feels really nice. And then extend the legs. So especially with that roll up underneath the knees, it's pretty relaxing. If there is any tug in your lower back, just go ahead, bend your knees, take your feet wide, and then just allow the knees to knock in towards each other. So do make any little adjustments that you need to. A little bit of a stretch here, also kind of relaxing too though. So start to find some nice deep inhales. And you can exhale, sigh the breath out through your mouth. And as you feel ready, really start to relax, really start to drop into your Ujjayi breath. So inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your nose, creating that soft rush of air in the back of your throat. As you inhale, maybe find more length through the sides of your neck. Feel the back of the neck stretch out, get longer. There is a sensation that chin is gently tucking towards your chest. And then as you're inhaling here, maybe just visualize inhaling from deep down by the diaphragm, so even the belly, and then feeling the expansion of the rib cage as the breath moves all the way up into the thoracic. Might even pause at the top. And then in reverse, feel everything empty out as you exhale, constrict in. And again, maybe a little pause at the bottom of your breath. Your attention will wander. You'll get distracted by sounds happening in the room you're in. Just remind yourself to come back to the breath as that happens. And of course, you'll get distracted by the thoughts happening inside the mind. So same thing applies when you become aware of the fact that your attention has drifted, that you're thinking about something, you're time traveling a little bit. Just come back to that sound of your breath. You might have to remind yourself to do that 1,000 times the next hour. That's okay. Feel those shoulder blades heavy, hip plates heavy, heels heavy in the mat. Good, and then let's inhale, stretch the arms up overhead. So they're about shoulders distance apart, maybe a little wider, palms face in towards each other. Can bring your legs a little closer together, and then just point your toes up towards the ceiling as you stretch through your fingertips. Your hands might even be lifting up off the mat a little bit. Your ankles might be up off the mat as well, especially if your knees are resting on something. Good, and then point your toes. So feel that stretch through the front of the leg. Can feel pretty nice. Good, deep inhale, toes point back up towards the ceiling, and then just release your arms by your side. Bend your knees. You might have to just move your props out of the way. And then we're just let's actually roll to the left side first. So find a little fetal position. You're staying on that blanket that you've rolled up from underneath your thoracic. And that's just gonna be a nice little stretch on the side of the body. So just take a few breaths there. It's kind of like a little massage. Good, and then roll back up to center. And then off to the right. So just feeling that bolster press into the rib cage there on the right side. Good, and then we'll use that left hand to help press up. All right, so you can move props out of the way and then come into your tabletop position. So setting up for some cat-cow, kind of will feel good after that just to release the spine. So shoulders over wrists, fingers spread, knees underneath your hips, and just be really mellow here starting out. So it might not be very deep back bends. And then as you exhale, you round in, let the top of the neck go, let it release. And then just continuing like that. Maybe firm down more into your toenails, the tops of the feet, the shins, so you feel really anchored to the earth there. And then you're just getting curious about how your spine is feeling. So there might be a little sensation in the thoracic from laying over that blanket. We're gonna start to lose a little of that as we continue here. And you're just moving at a pace that feels really good in your body. So you're inhaling and exhaling through your nose, connecting movement with breath. Couple more rounds like this. Good, come back to a neutral spine. So you're neither rounding nor arching. Let's get into the neck and the shoulder a little bit. You might need a block for this. So block will go to the left-hand side, or you could use a blanket as well. We're gonna thread this left arm underneath. And so you can either place that left ear on the floor. That might be where you need a block for your shoulder, for your ear. And then let's walk our right hand forward. So it's like that arm is in downward facing dog. Press into that palm, all 5 knuckles there. You're gonna feel the forearm active, lifting. You're gonna feel the inner arm wrap towards the outer arm. And then really anchor down into the top of that left arm, perhaps even shoulder. And then maybe that allows you to twist those left ribs to the right a little more. Breath smooth, steady. Start to walk that right arm off to the side. So it's kind of just hovering over that left arm. And then maybe you lift your right arm up. So opening up here, spin that palm to face behind you. And then bend the elbow, grab a piece of shirt, lower left side. Maybe you can get your fingertips to the inside of your thigh. You're just trying to find a little leverage so you can open up across that right shoulder a little more. So you're really pressing it back. And this can absolutely be really, really intense. So if you need to back out a little bit, you listen to that. We always want to do that in our yoga practice. Day-to-day things can feel a little different. If you've been shoveling a lot of snow here in Colorado, this might be a little harder than usual today. Good, so if you are in some version of that wrap, start to reach your right fingertips up towards the ceiling. Nice work. As you exhale, unwind, come back to your tabletop, and let's just release that with a couple rounds of cat-cow. Kind of a little palate cleanser here before we move to that second side. All right, so coming back to your neutral spine, you're rooting down into your left palm. Again, maybe you'll need a prop on this side, which could feel totally different. So just be ready for that. Thread that right arm underneath. Good. And then land on your right ear, right shoulder, or a little prop underneath there. And then start to extend left arm forward as though you're going to come into downward dog. Spread the fingers gently, press evenly. Feel the inner arm wrap towards the outer arm. As you firm into that palm and as you firm down into your right shoulder, find a little more twist of those right ribs up towards the ceiling. It might be really subtle, that's fine. And then start to extend. Left arm off to the left, so it's kind of just hovering above your right arm, and then start to lift that arm up if you would like. Spin the palm to face behind you. You're externally rotating. Bend the elbow, grab a piece of shirt, piece of clothing. Maybe fingertips come to the inside of your right thigh. Use that leverage to lift that left shoulder head up towards the ceiling, and then keep that spinning action of the ribs. Breath smooth and steady. Good work. Curious about how this side might feel different in your body. So if you are in that wrap, go ahead and just release out. So stretch this left fingertips up and then unwind. And then again here, couple rounds of cat-cow. Really try to let the back of the neck lengthen and release even more. So just creating a little space there. Good, and then let's go ahead and walk our hands forward a couple of inches. So giving yourself a little more space. Curl your toes under. Keep a bend in your knees as you start to stretch your sit bones up towards the ceiling. And it can actually be kind of a nice little stretch in the toes. Again, fingers are spreading, you're pressing down evenly. Good, as you exhale, let your right heel release towards the floor any amount. Keep that deep bend in the left knee. Inhale back up to tippy toes. And then exhale, release that left heel. Good, inhale up, one more to each side. Exhale, release right heel. Inhale up. Exhale, release left. Good, inhale up to center. And then this time, keep stretching your sit bones up towards the ceiling as you root into your palms, but allow your heels to melt back. You can keep a deep, deep bend in your knees. That's absolutely fine. So downward facing dog, first one of the day can always feel really intense. So do modify as you need. Find your breath. Make sure that you're not gripping the neck so the ears are between your biceps, those inner arms. From here, we're going to inhale, shift forward into our plank pose. So reach back through your heels, reach back through your, what am I trying to say? Your tailbone. That's what I'm trying to say. As you reach forward through your sternum, gaze slightly ahead in front of your fingertips. Let's lower to our knees, nice and slow to the count of 5. Elbows bend, they squeeze in. We lower down. 3, 2, 1. Good work. So let's take our arms by our side. You're pressing to the tops of your feet, so all 10 toenails. Just come onto your forehead here. We're going to keep anchoring down into the feet, into the legs. Feel the outer hips squeeze in. Feel your inner thighs roll up, so legs really active. Inhale, head, chest extend forward and up. Fingers lift up off the mat. Feel your shoulder blades squeeze in towards each other. Breath smooth and steady, really creating a lot of strength in these muscles in our back. All right, as we exhale, we lower down. So you're gonna stick with that. If you're feeling a little tighter in the shoulders, stay there. If you would like to interlace the fingers, the small of your back, you can do that. So keep a little bend in your elbows. Forehead is on the floor. Already you're feeling the shoulder heads lift though. Everything anchors down again as you inhale. Head and chest lift. And then you start to stretch your knuckles towards your heels, any amount. And again, a little bend in the elbows is nice, particularly if you're hyperflexible. Sometimes we can lock out that elbow joint and we actually get less stretch if we're doing that. Good. As you exhale, lower down.
Change the interlacing of your fingers. So you bring the opposite index finger and thumb on top. Same thing here. Feel really weighted and anchored in your lower body as you inhale. Find extension, forward and up, reaching your knuckles towards your heels, and then maybe start to lift your feet up off the mat. So again, legs are super, super active. Notice if it's easier to lift the front half of your body. Is it easier to lift the back half? Try to lift both equally. Good. One more deep inhale. And then as you exhale, you release down. Bring your fingertips underneath your shoulder heads. As you inhale, chest extends forward and up, low cobra, generating the work in your back as you exhale, lower. Couple of these. Inhale up, elbows squeeze in. That helps to lift the shoulder heads. Exhale, lower down. Inhale up, hold here. And you can stay here. If you're ready for an up dog, drag hands back a lot, wrists underneath your elbows. Check to see that that's happening. And then press into your hands, press into the tops of your feet. So legs are super active here. Your shins, your knees, your thighs, lift up off the mat. If that's not happening, just come back down to your low cobra. And then from low cobra, press the tabletop, curl over toes. If you're in your up dog, you can roll over your toes to your downward dog. Take a nice deep inhale here. Open your mouth, sigh the breath out, let it go. Ha. All right, so we're gonna start to just walk our feet forward to meet our hands. As you inhale, chest extends forward, gaze comes forward. You can have a bend in your knees. As you exhale, fold in, and then root down into your feet. Stretch arms out and up. They can reach forward and up if that feels better, if the space that you're in is small. As you exhale, hands come together at your heart. All right, just starting to move a little bit here. As you inhale, arms reach. As you exhale, gracefully fold in. Again, let the back of your neck lengthen down. Inhale, extend into your Uttanasana, half forward fold. Exhale back into your Uttanasana. Pressing into your feet, stretching arms out and up. See how tall you can get. As you exhale, hands come together at your heart. Maybe close your eyes for this next round. Inhaling, reaching, so getting really internal. Noticing how things are feeling. Exhale, releasing in to your deep forward fold. Inhale into your half forward fold. Back into your Uttanasana. And then inhale, press down to rise up. As you exhale, hands come together at your heart. We're going to do 3 more of these. I'm not going to cue you, so you can follow along with me. If you know it, just move at your pace. Mostly enjoy how these feel. It's hard not to be happy when you're doing some sun salutes. Kind of just chase all of the cobwebs out of the body. That being said, if you're feeling grumpy doing these, that's okay too. It's just kind of how it is when we've had a year of COVID and quarantine. Get curious about the places where this feels easy in your body. Notice the places where you tend to be a little tighter. There's a little more sensation in your body. Not even trying to change anything, just bringing that awareness to your physical shape. That's another good tool to help us focus our attention, stay present with what we're doing. Good. And there's absolutely no rush when you're done with your 3rd round. You're just pausing in your mountain pose Tadasana, palms together at your heart. Eyes still might be closed. Otherwise, you're just gazing down at your fingertips. Noticing how you're feeling different already. All right, so from here, let's inhale, stretch our arms up. You're gonna bring your right fingertips to that left wrist as you exhale, side bend to the right. Few breaths here. Feel shoulder blades still release down, squeeze in towards each other. Wrap these right ribs up towards the ceiling. Maybe look up underneath that top arm. And then inhale, bring everything to the center, release that left wrist, and then left fingertips come to right wrist as you exhale. Side stretch to the left, shoulder blades, squeezing in towards each other. Lots of length through the right side.
Trying to find a little length even in that left side, even though it's a little constricted, but we are rolling those left ribs up. Breath smooth and steady, maybe gaze up underneath that top arm. Good, inhale up. And then as you exhale, hands come together at your heart. So we're gonna come into a little hip flexor, hamstring stretching. So you might wanna have your blocks handy at the top of your mat. You may or may not need them, but you can just keep them there. All right. Just in case. All right, so as we inhale, arms reach out and up. As you exhale, hinge forward, fold in. Inhale, chest extends forward, gaze comes forward, bend your knees, plant your palms, keep your gaze forward, right foot back, then left. Take an inhale here in plank pose. Good, and then as you exhale, you shift forward on your toes. You can do full chaturanga, or you can use your knees and you can hover here or come all the way down. Inhale into your low cobra or your upward facing dog. Beautiful, Laura. As you exhale, pull back, downward facing dog. And then as we inhale, we are gonna lift our right leg up. As you exhale, step that foot through, land on your left knee. All right, so the further you slide that left knee back, the more you're gonna feel this stretch on that left hip flexor. This might be where you want some blocks. So we're gonna exhale in and we're just gonna move a little bit here. So we come into the yin portion, we're gonna hold these poses a little longer. So inhaling, straightening that front leg. Exhale, melt in. Ooh, kind of like hurts so good. Inhale, pull back. Good, exhale, melt back in. Let's do one more here. Inhale, pull on back. And then exhale, let's just hold here for about 3 breaths. Maybe you can come down a little lower. Maybe you need to back out a little bit. A lot of sensation happening at the top of this leg. So a lot of big muscles attached there. Send your exhale there. Visualize it creating some space, some ease. And then we start to walk back. Maybe you take your blocks with you. If you're really tight, you're gonna be pretty upright. If you're a little more open in your hamstrings, you might even start to forward fold. So walking hands forward. As you do that, pull your right hip back. Left hip comes forward. So we're trying to keep both hip bones facing the same direction. The more you point those right toes up towards the ceiling, the more you're gonna feel this stretch. Good, and it is intense. Hamstring, really, really big muscle in the back of the leg. Exhale, rock forward. Hands come up to your right thigh. Good, inhale, arms reach. Maybe gaze up, press palms together. And then as we exhale, we're gonna bring our hands down. Palms flat. So a couple options today. Just curl your left toes under, step to downward facing dog from here. If you would like a little more heat, you can take a Chaturanga Vinyasa, moving with your breath. These are always optional. So omitting these or modifying them is always a good way to sort of take a little intensity off the yoga practice. So we come back to our downward facing dog. We're gonna inhale, lift our left leg. Exhale, step that foot through and then land on that right knee. So you might need to pad up the knee. If you're tight, that knee is gonna be a little closer to your left ankle. If you're a little more open, you slide that knee back. Again, hands on blocks is wonderful here. And then we're just gonna start to flow a little bit. So as you inhale, begin to straighten that left leg, pull hips back over that right knee. Exhale in, just warming things up. Inhaling, pulling back. Good, exhale, melt in. Good, inhale, pull back. Exhale, sink in. Let's do one more here and then we'll hold each for a few breaths. So inhaling back. And then exhaling, melting in here. Make any adjustments that you need. Keep your breath smooth and steady. That inhale through your nose. That exhale through your nose. Good, as you inhale, come back into your Ardha Hanumanasana, half splits, walking the blocks back, maybe walking your fingers forward, pointing these left toes up towards the ceiling. If your hamstrings are a little more open, we're all built a little different, and even day to day, our bodies feel really different depending upon what we've been doing. It's always these little subtle changes in our yoga practice, even though we're doing the same poses over and over. So it's really fluid. All right, as we exhale, we rock forward. Hands come to that left thigh. Good. Root down, release your tailbone. Inhale, stretch your arms out and up. Beautiful. Maybe gaze up, press palms, challenge the balance a little bit. And then as we exhale, hands come down to the mat. Curl right toes under. And then again, your choice. Step to downward facing dog if you want a little more heat. You take a Chaturanga Vinyasa, whatever that looks like for you. Moving with your breath. And then just a couple of breaths here. So ears releasing between the biceps, inner arm wrapping towards outer arm. Feel that widening across the backs of your shoulders. Good. As you inhale, find a little bend in your knees. Come to your tippy toes, peek where you're going. At the end of your exhale, you can step right, then left. You can hop both feet through. You can walk forward. Inhale, chest lengthens. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, press down into your feet. Stretch arms out and up. Good. As you exhale, hands come together at your heart. So let's do a little modified Surya Namaskara. Be here. So just one more to just build a little heat before we come into those long held yin poses. So we're going to do this with our full crescent pose. So at the top of your mat, feet about hips distance apart. As you inhale, knees bend, arms reach up, weight in your heels. Katasana chair pose. We're not going to hold this one very long today. As you exhale, hinge forward, fold in. Inhale, chest extends forward, gaze comes forward. Keep looking forward, bend knees, plant palms, left foot back, then right. On this same exhale, shift forward, maybe come to knees. Lower halfway, hover, or all the way down. Inhale, low cobra or upward facing dog. As you exhale, pull back, downward facing dog. As you inhale, hips stay even as you lift your right leg. Exhale, use your belly to help step that foot through. Keep those left toes curled under, feet are hips distance apart. Inhale, rise up, full crescent, nice. As you exhale, hands come down, palms plant. You can step back to downward dog, take a Chaturanga Vinyasa. Maybe you keep that right leg lifted, elbows bend. Place those toes down before you come into your up dog. As you exhale, down dog. Inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, step that foot through. Good, strong legs carry you up into your crescent pose. As you exhale, hands come down. Step back, downward dog, plank pose, lifted leg. Just make sure that you're even before you come into your back bend. Your back will thank you for that. Exhale, pull back, downward facing dog. Take a few breaths here. Try to slow everything down. Good, and then let's inhale. Little bend in the knees, come to the tippy toes. Look where you're going. At the end of your exhale, nice and light, hop through or step left and right. Walk forward. Inhale, chest lengthens. Exhale, fold in. As you inhale, knees bend, arms reach up. Katasana chair pose. Good. And then as you exhale, press your legs to straight. Hands come together at your heart. Close your eyes, take a couple of breaths. And we're going to start to switch gears here. So we're going to move towards our yin poses. So long held, deep stretch. And I always think it's kind of nice to warm up the body a little bit before we move in that direction. So you can blink your eyes open, release your hands down. You're going to have some props handy. So for our first pose, we're going to come into dragon pose, and we're going to do this. And you can just watch really quick. I'll give you a couple of options for this. So let's start with, you can kind of come down to a tabletop. Right leg is going to be forward. All right, so a couple of options here. You could just be like this, maybe hands upright or hands on your thigh. You can do your low flying dragon here, so hands down. Actually, this would be like a middle flying dragon, hands on the floor or on blocks. You might take both hands to the inside, perhaps coming down to forearms or forearms on blocks. So the other option here, if that's just not working, we're gonna hold this a few minutes. So you might even hit all 3 variations. The other option would be to grab the outer edge of your right foot, kind of like a half happy baby here, or pull down on your thigh. So go ahead and find a variation that feels good to you. I'm gonna get the timer going. So you're not muscularly trying to hold things here. So it's a little different than our flow practice. We're trying to let the muscles release, but as we do that, what we're doing is getting deep into the fascia, into the joints, and it's quite intense. So this isn't a restorative practice. There isn't this sense of ease and relaxing. Actually, I think it's quite challenging. So there is a lot of sensation, and we're playing with riding that sensation a little bit, feeling it, but not going to the point where it's too much. And so again, that might mean that you have to back out. It might mean that you have to make adjustments and that you take a different variation of the pose, and that's absolutely okay. As we hold the poses, sometimes we start to feel a little release in our bodies, so we can melt in a little deeper. Sometimes we can feel a little agitated holding these poses because they are so intense. So the breath becomes a really effective tool. And you can be doing your Ujjayi breath here. You could simply be doing an inhale and an exhale. You could also work with a little pranayama. A box breath would be really nice here. So inhaling to the count of 4 or 5, pausing to the count of 4 or 5, and then exhale to the count of 4 or 5. And then pause at the bottom of the exhale. So you just kind of find a little rhythm. It kind of gives your brain a little something to chew on here. And we've got about, maybe 7, 8 good breaths here. So if you needed to, or if you were wanting to go in a little deeper, now would be a good chance to do that. Conversely, if you need to back out a little bit, that's absolutely fine too. You could even come out of the pose altogether and just find a child's pose. Especially if you're on YouTube watching this and you're a little bit newer, do less for sure. Okay, nice deep inhale. Full complete exhale. All right, so if you are upright here, let's just pull that right leg back. And if you're on your back, you can hug both knees into your chest. Just take a couple breaths here. We're gonna move in towards our Swan Pose. So again, you can just kind of peek forward. So you'll know this as your single pigeon in our Vinyasa flow practice. So we're gonna keep that right leg in front. So shin bends in. For this, the purposes of our practice today, we're gonna bring our right heel pretty close to our left hip because we're gonna hold this for a few minutes. You might find that you need a little padding underneath that left knee. That leg is basically in Cobra pose. You also might find that you need a little support underneath that right hip, so blanket or block there, and then you can start to melt forward. If you're on your back and you want to try this pose, you're welcome to do so. Otherwise, you're going to come into your reclining pigeon on your back. So again, we'll just do that right leg. So knees bent as though you're coming into bridge pose. Cross that right ankle above the left knee. You could stay here like this. If it feels like you have a little more room, you might bend that left knee in towards your chest, interlacing fingers either around the thigh or the shin. But you should be getting a good amount of sensation in this right hip flexor. And if you're upright, again, props are really great here. So you might just be pressing into forearms on blocks. You might be moving towards lengthening forward, just coming into your sleeping swan. So you might even be resting on your forehead. And you'll notice that in the yin practice, the poses, they're similar to things that we see in our vinyasa practice, but we use different names just to kind of conjure up a different energy. So again, this idea of these long held stretches, these intense deep stretches, this tremendous attention on the breath. And that's true, of course, in our vinyasa practice, but it's a little different here. We're kind of stretching the breath out, and we're really, really using the breath to help find space in the body to keep us present. Do a little scan of your body. Have you started gripping in places that you don't need to? And it's interesting how this happens without our awareness. So if there are places that you can let go, do so. And of course, there are places that you're going to be feeling a deep stretch. You might be feeling it in the knee. You're probably feeling it in that right hip joint. Back out a little bit if you need to. We've got about 4 good breaths here. Good. So if you're on your back, again, just start to make your way out. If you are in your sleeping swan, just start to rise up. Maybe come up to fingertips here. Press shoulder heads back so you find that upward dog sensation in the upper body. Just for a breath or two, can feel nice. Then from the seated swan, or the sleeping swan, we're going to bring this left leg up and over. And we're going to keep the sole of the right foot to the inside of the left thigh. This might be a really great place if it's hard for you to sit tall, if you're kind of locked in the hips, if you're locked in the pelvic girdle. Sitting up on a blanket is really nice. You're welcome to, if you're on your back, to come into this pose. I'll give you another variation as well. And we're just going to come into forward fold here. So we know this is Janu Shirshasana. This is like our little half firefly pose. We're going to round, or we're going to fold forward. And whereas I'm always admonishing you to keep your heart open, to keep a little back bend in this forward fold, not the case today. So get as ugly in that spine as you want to. Let the neck release down. It can be really nice to take a bolster, or you can use blocks. So just giving your head a little support. All this being said, if you're really tight, if you're feeling a good stretch, you might be pretty upright, and that works also. So if forward folding isn't in the cards for you today, from your back, we're just gonna have you come into a little half tree pose. So again, the sole of the right foot to the inside of the left thigh. You might find that you need to slide a block underneath that knee, just to give you a little support. And then you could have your arms by your side. You could take arms up overhead, so grabbing elbows, or you could even have palms facing towards each other. So little supine tree pose. Just seeing where you feel good. Breath smooth and steady. Paying attention to where you're getting sensations in the body. And always just checking in, noticing if you're gripping anywhere that you don't need to, trying to soften in those spots. Using your breath as a tool here. So again, counting the breath can be really effective. Doing that box breath can sometimes be a nice way to focus, but also kind of distract the mind from the sensation that's happening in the body. And always, always, always just making little adjustments. So side to side, different things can be going on in our body. So sometimes we just need a little less. That being said, there is sensation here, so that's okay too. And we just want to figure out how to be really smart and wise about that sensation. All right, so as you inhale, if you are in the forward fold, you're going to slowly start to roll on up. If you're on your back, just take your right hand to the outside of that right leg, draw the knee in, and then squeeze the knees into your chest. All right, so let's take this left leg in front. And then rock up to your tabletop. Take a couple rounds of cat-cow. So we're going to take that little sequence to the second side. If you're on your back, you're just rocking from side to side a little bit. Good. So we set up for our dragon on this left side. So if you're on your back, you're going to grab the outer edge of that left foot or thigh. Right knee can be bent or extended. If you're upright, left leg is forward. All right. So you can be upright here, hands on thigh or fingertips on blocks. Maybe you come down a little lower, and you could actually hit all three of these. That would work too. Perhaps you want to come down further still. So both hands to the inside, maybe coming onto your forearms. Right away, you're noticing how this side feels different. I'm going to just demo what this looks like on the back if you're there. Ooh, and I have a block in my way. All right, so again, you could be holding, gently pulling down on that left thigh. Maybe you can grab the outer edge of the foot. This right leg can be extended straight, or the knee can be bent. It just depends on what you are needing. Where might you be gripping that you don't need to? Can you soften in those places? Sometimes the go-to culprits are the fingers, the toes start to grip, the face, the jaw get really tight. We start to clench our teeth. So soften there. Keep that breath smooth and steady, whatever that looks like, whatever kind of pranayama you're working with. Maybe getting curious about how this side feels different in your body. Is this your easier side? Is this side a little more challenging for you? Doing good. We've got about another minute left here. So again, adjust if you need to, back out. If you want to play with coming in a little deeper, you're welcome to do so. If you need to come into a child's pose, something different altogether, take that. So sensation, yes. Suffering, overrated. Skip it. Especially in these situations where we do have a little control. All right, so we're going to start to make our way out of this. If you're on your back, you're just going to hug knees in. If you are upright, let's just melt those hips back again. Find that stretch in the hamstring. It's going to be a nice release too on this right hip flexor. So just a couple breaths here like this. Good. And then we start to make our way into our sleeping swan on our left side. So we're going to bend that left knee. Going to reach back nice and long through that right leg. Maybe you want to put a little padding underneath that knee. Maybe a little padding underneath this left hip. And then just look back, make sure that you're really extending that right ankle from your right hip. And then just take your time here, kind of melting in any amount. Maybe moving towards resting forehead on fists or a block. We do have a few minutes here, so you don't need to feel like you need to get to that spot first thing. And then again, if you're on your back, if that's what's working for you today, we're just going to take that left ankle above the right knee. Maybe you stay here like this for a minute or two. Maybe you bend that right knee in, interlace fingers either around the thigh or the shin. You should be feeling a nice stretch here in that outer left hip, in the glute area. Breath smooth and steady. If you're upright here, you're trying to let both hip bones release down towards the floor. So that right one's probably wanting to lift up a little bit. Direct it down. Thoughts will kick up here. So again, you just remind yourself to come back to your breath. I find for me in this yin stuff, because the poses are so intense, I usually am thinking not about other stuff so much, but about the intensity of the stretch. So that happens too. Good. So we're about a minute left here, a little less than that. You can move in a little deeper if that feels like what you need. Maybe you need to back out. If you're on your back, if you have that knee squeezed in, just start to release. Give both knees a squeeze. If you are in the sleeping swan, just start to upright yourself and maybe come up to fingertips, press shoulder heads back, find a little upward facing dog here. It can feel intense in the lumbar, but kind of nice. All right, and then we move towards that half firefly. So bring right leg up and over, maybe sitting up on something. Sole of the left foot comes to the inside of that right thigh. Start the timer here. And then fold in. You can round. Rest forehead on a block. And then if you are on your back here, you can just come into this supine tree pose, sliding a block underneath that left thigh. Arms by your side. Can cactus your arms, grab elbows up overhead. So just find a place that feels good for you. If you're on your back here in the supine tree pose, really nice pose to feel the expansion of the rib cage as you're breathing, inhaling. And then as you exhale, everything contracts in. So get curious about that. Notice that. Breath smooth, steady. How is this side different for you? Is it different? About 5, 6 more good breaths here. All right, so if you're seated in the forward fold, as you inhale, start to make your way out. And then just take your left hand to the outside of that left knee, extend your legs together, give them a little shake. And then if you're on your back, you're taking your left hand to the outside of your knee, just releasing it in, and then hug both knees. If you're seated up right here, give yourself a little hug, bring your nose to your knees. And then we're going to make our way into our final resting pose, Shavasana. So if you have any interest in doing a floating Shavasana today, going to take some blocks for your feet, and then we're going to have a roll up for our knees. So kind of gauge that. You're going to come on down. So the blanket under the knees, blocks underneath the ankles, just feels kind of nice here. And then arms by your side, a little wider than shoulders distance apart. Take a nice deep inhale through your nose. Open your mouth, sigh the breath out. Of course, if you don't have these props, you can just be in a classic Shavasana. If there's tenderness in your lower back, you are bending the knees, taking feet wide, and then allowing the knees to knock in towards each other. And this should feel easy. So we don't want any sensation, any stretch here. We want this deep sense of surrender, of relaxation, a sense of heaviness, of groundedness. Melt in here, just enjoy how this feels. Shavasana. Let your next inhale be deeper. Open your mouth, sigh the breath out, let it go. And begin to bring some movement back to your body. Wiggle fingers, toes, circle wrists, ankles, stretch up overhead. And staying soft and quiet, you roll to one side or the other. Just find the fetal position. Using your hands to help you press up to a comfortable seat. So notice how you feel here. Notice the sense of ease, the sense of space you have in your spine. Notice how the breath is really steady and rich. And as a result of body and breath working together, hopefully you're feeling a little quieter, a little more focused, maybe even a little sense of joy. So send yourself love and gratitude for showing up and working hard. And just promise yourself that you're going to carry a little of this feeling with you into the rest of the day ahead. Bring your palms together at your heart and just bow your head with a smile.